Hello and welcome to another exciting installment of Trans Uncensored, the podcast so transparent that you can see everything, just all the naughty bits, all the way down. I'm your host, Verity Ritchie, which is actually Latin for My Father Never Loved Me. Today I'm joined once again by my dear friend Kitty on the phone. Kitty, could you
Hi.
describe your naked body to us?
My naked body. Ooh, wow. Well, what do you want to know? I don't know how to describe my naked body to you.
Just the freckles, to be honest. Just where are the freckles?
Yeah, I got lots of them. I have like quite some pores over my chest, and then like careless, belly, and then
I really appreciate your commitment to this this stupid question I asked.
how would you describe your body?
Oh well, no, I don't. I don't really have a body anymore. I traded it in for some chocolate and some very rare Pokemon cards. You know, the shiny ones. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing.
So today, Kitty and I are going to be talking about body image. I think in the trans community, we spend a lot of time talking about gender dysphoria, and a lot of time talking about whether or not you're required to have gender dysphoria in order to count as a trans person. But I think we don't spend too much time talking about body dysmorphia, which I think I'm a little bit surprised by because I find that body image is something really hard to deal with. So, Kitty, could you tell us what the difference is between body dysmorphia and dysphoria?
So gender dysphoria is when you feel a difference between your body, actually the gender you were assigned at birth, and the way you perceive your gender, so your gender identity. Body dysmorphia is when people view their bodies a certain way in a false image, and it isn't true.
So, I think what's a little bit tricky about this topic is, for instance, if you have body dysmorphia and you see yourself as being like a very large woman,
Yeah.
the standards for what a woman is kind of dictates that women must be petite to some
Yeah.
degree, at least
Yeah.
more petite than the average
Yeah.
man. And what I find a little bit difficult about this is how, like for me, I kind of see myself as being massive, and but I think a lot of like big cis girls will also feel the same way,
Yeah.
and that can influence body dysmorphia for them. But when it comes to transitioning, that like where is the line? Because I don't want to be big because I don't want to look like a guy. So it is sort of gender dysphoria for me, but at the same time, it's dysmorphia, or it would be just dysmorphia if I was a girl, a cis girl. So like if a cisgender girl feels like that she's too big or her boobs are too small, is that gender dysphoria or is that body dysmorphia? You know?
I have no idea, but I feel like body dysmorphia is a thing where you just spend hours and hours thinking about it. So yeah, if you're assigned that gender, and if you feel like a tall person and want to be a petite person because of what society tells you, because the current beauty standards say women are small, right? So I don't know.
Would you be happy with any woman's body? Is it enough to just look like a woman?
Yeah, I would be happy.
Really?
Yeah, I would be happy with anybody. That was assigned female at birth. Yeah, I would. I feel like that would help me so much in the perception of my body, like my own and other people's. I can have like cosmetic procedures done, but I would have less cosmetic procedures as an already assigned woman at birth, right? And yeah, I do, for the record, I do have gender dysphoria. And it's really this thing that actually makes me feel ugly. And if I were already having, you know, everything that is associated with women, body-wise, I feel like I would have less troubles. How would you?
Well, for me, I have been on estrogen for about 4 years, and I have a more womanly body now than I ever did before.
Yeah.
But like I said, I think I'm massive, and I kind of hate that about myself. I hate that I'm so tall. I hate that I'm so broad and wide.
But is that is that because you feel like you would be clocked looking so tall?
Yeah, I used to, before I transitioned, I really went into this whole like, I don't want to care about what people think of my body and what they think of me, and I want to just like dress and look how I want. So I decided to not shampoo my hair anymore, and I had this like matted, dirty hair, and and I always had like scruffy facial hair.
Yeah.
And although I hated my body hair, I grew it out, and I wore just like ratty, ridiculous clothing. And I was like, I don't give a shit what people think about me. But now that I've transitioned, I still, to some degree, that's just part of who I am. There's like, fuck the world, I don't care, I'm not going to do things the way that you want me to. Because, you know, I'm a 15-year-old punk at heart. But living as a woman, I can't do these things. Like, the more I let myself go, the more that I avoid sort of these social clues that indicate my gender, the more likely I am to be seen as a man or as a trans person. And like often I don't really want people to know I'm trans.
Yeah.
I want trans people to know I'm trans.
Yeah.
I don't want cis people to know I'm trans.
Yeah.
You know, when you see like, sometimes, this happens very rarely, but sometimes I'll like see another trans person and I'll be like looking at her and I'm like, hey girl, what's up? And then she will feel like I'm staring at her for creepy reasons, and I'm like, no, I'm saying hi, you know. And so I really want trans people to know I'm trans, but cis people, I don't really want them to know. I don't think it's any of their business. I want them to fuck off.
I mean, it creates this unpleasant, you know, atmosphere if, in regards, you know, cis versus trans, there will always be the discussion about your body, and do you have the energy to talk about it? Do you have the energy to baby them about what trans means? And
yeah, cis people get a little bit weird about this stuff. I was recently at a party several months ago where a girl knew that a woman knew that I was trans.
Yeah.
So like, I think she knew through family, friends, or whatever. And or maybe because I just looked like a manly giant drag queen. It's hard to tell, really. But she just came up to me at one point after she'd had a few drinks and told me she just wanted to let me know how brave I was for being who I was. And like, obviously what she meant was, it's very brave for me to... Okay, like the cynic in me is thinking like, oh, it's very brave of you to wear a dress even though you're clearly a man. That's like the cynical part of me, and the self-hating part, and like the dysphoric part of me believes that was what she was trying to say. But I think possibly on the other hand, she just was very impressed by me being trans because it's very hard, and she just wanted to let me know. But it triggered a lot of unpleasant feelings for me, and also made me feel a little bit objectified. Like she didn't really think of me as anything more than being trans. She didn't know anything about me except that I was trans, and she wanted to give me a pat on the back for that. And I found that quite condescending.
Of course, yeah.
But it really, and I had felt beautiful that night. I just felt like, I felt gorgeous. And I felt so good. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the night, this feeling of like, after all this, after feeling so great and feeling pretty and wonderful, to be reminded that just maybe I look like a man in a dress. that I looked like the drag queen of the party. It just made me feel awful. So I don't really want cis people to, cis people are weird. They get weird.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just like avoid that altogether. And I think there's a weird social dynamic where like obviously they are the normal ones and I'm the abnormal one. And I don't want them to have that sense. I want them to see me for who I am. But yeah, being big, I don't know, one thing, like before I transitioned, I've always been very insecure about my rib cage. So I have I don't know. My rib cage is quite wide, and people have pointed this out to me before, but like years and years ago, 2 women told me, well, you shouldn't be so skinny because you have a wide rib cage, so it's clearly not made for a skinny person, so you're too skinny for your rib cage. And that was pretty upsetting.
What?
And I always carried that with me. I just carried with me this like sense of like, okay, I have a fucked up body. Okay, that sucks, but I guess I have to come to terms with it. But now I still see that, and I want to be pretty and I want to be sexy, but like I just have this broad rib cage which makes me feel like I am just bigger and broader than any cis woman could be. And I think that whether or not I were a cis man or a cis woman, I would feel self-conscious about this element of myself. But now, having transitioned, there is this extra added layer of like, does this increase how ugly I am as a woman? And I don't want to be an ugly woman. I don't know, you were saying like, well, if you were like born a cis woman, you could get cosmetic surgery. So I feel like maybe you don't want to be an ugly woman either.
No,
right?
Of course not. Who wants to be ugly, No, this reminds me of a video from ContraPoints, this famous YouTuber, and she did this part on beauty, saying how she actually, she wants to be beautiful. That's the main point of it all. Because as she continues, she says, my desires to feel female, to look feminine, to look beautiful are not exactly the same, but they're woven together so tightly that it's kind of difficult to untangle them. And the opposite is also true, that for me, feeling mannish or dysphoric usually goes along with feeling ugly. The truth is, I don't just want to look female, I want to be beautiful. And she continues, I still don't feel beautiful, and I need to face the fact that I'm never going to feel beautiful unless I change the way I think. I think I need to start by forgiving myself for wanting to be beautiful. For one, beauty is associated with youth. It's a symbol of life, of a defiance of death. Beauty is also associated with moral worth, the beautiful princess versus the evil hag. There's studies showing that conventionally attractive people are more likely to be assumed to be happy, healthy, and trustworthy. They're more likely to be hired. And we know that beauty is power, beauty is political. And then she continues, we know that our obsession of beauty is being provoked by advertising, the cosmetic industry, and the beauty influencers who are trying to sell us products. I'm aware that conventional beauty standards are a racist, sexist, ableist, fatphobic, transphobic social construct designed to preserve power relations and sell products. But does that awareness mean I desire any less to be conventionally beautiful? I couldn't agree more, honestly.
I often feel pressure when it comes to activism to sort of be the change you want to see in the world. And I want to be sort of like, if I can be comfortable with being ugly, sort of that's activism in its own right, in a way, that's sort of anti-beauty standards. But it's so hard. And I feel like I'm sacrificing my happiness for like activist theory way too often. I just like abuse myself for the sake of trying to reach some kind of like moral purity, so I just end up fucking miserable.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the hardest things to do, because at the end of the day, it's how you view, yourself. It's your body image, and that influences a lot of how you perceive yourself and how others perceive you.
Do you think you could ever be happy being ugly?
No. because it's something that society tells you, right? It's something that is perceived by society, and it gives like these instructions, and like there are like unseen laws to it. And you know if you're ugly, and ugly is something bad, right? So I would always know I'm ugly, and I would always then feel like I'm less than. And would I want that for the rest of my life? No, definitely not.
You know, I used to, before I transitioned, when I was a hairy man ape, I I would often sort of be told, I don't know if often is the right word, but I would occasionally be told like that people fell for me for my personality, and it wasn't about my looks, and like, and gay men would be like, huh, even though you're a hairy man beast, I find you strangely attractive. And it was like, could you just be nice about my body? Like, because I wanted to feel attractive, but like, weirdly, I mean, I guess it's nice to have like a personality that's attractive, supposedly, or attractive to some people. But at the same time, I craved approval in terms of my physical appearance. And now I'm not really dating so much over the last several years. But I'm on all the dating apps. Of course, I'm on all the dating apps because at heart, deep down, I'm still that slutty bisexual I was born as. But I find like men on dating apps, when you're a girl, they're just quite obnoxious, and their standards are just completely absent. I think men on dating apps, they're messaging every single girl, whether they're like a straight guy or a chaser or whatever they are. They message every single girl, trans or cis, or they swipe which direction? Right? They swipe right on us, and then they don't care about who you are. They didn't read your profile, but they hoped that you would swipe right on them too, because they just have no standards, and they just like are hoping that any girl will be into them. So I feel, it makes me feel quite objectified in a weird way, which doesn't feel flattering. Like, it doesn't make me feel particularly beautiful, but I guess it makes me feel sort of aligned with my gender, because it's like, oh, that's nice, you're objectifying me in a shitty way that women are usually objectified with. But I find myself now having got my titties out enough times that I want someone to be attracted to my personality again. And it's been a while since like someone new came along and was just like, wow, your personality is so sexy. You know,
That is very attractive, you know. Personality is attractive. Like self-confidence is super attractive. But, you know, where does self-confidence come from? One of the thing is, you know, how you feel in your own body. So
yeah, and gosh, I don't know. You know what I really want from, I mean, I have a wonderful partner, and we're polyamorous, so we're open to other relationships. And what I would really want from a new relationship, as much as I want to attract like a sexy, gorgeous person, what I want more than that possibly is for that sexy person to be totally okay with me never shaving my fucking legs.
yeah.
Yeah, so being ugly, I think being ugly would feel like freedom in some ways. Because once the pressure's off, the pressure's off. Like, you don't have to be like a nice looking ugly person. Once you're ugly, there are a lot of social pressures that I imagine would be taken off you. And I think from what I've read, a lot of much older women kind of feel a relief at being at an age which is no longer considered attractive, because now they just get to be an old woman and do whatever they want without those pressures anymore. And that sounds very appealing as well in some ways. And I say this now, but as soon as someone is attracted to my personality and my hairy legs, I will be desperate to get my titties out again and find someone who just wants me for my body.
I feel like if you own your personal aesthetics, if you have, you know, a certain style that you pull off and it works for you and you feel confident in it, I feel like that is a big solution to like beauty standards and feeling ugly, and it would also then change like how people perceive you and how you perceive other people.
Do you have the same body standards for yourself as a man as you do for yourself as a woman?
Like, I feel like gender is such a bullshit thing, right? And there were times that I didn't feel so much as a woman, but more as someone without a gender. And I could pull off, shaving my hair, like buzz it all off, go to body pump and like look a certain way, because I felt like I didn't even care. I still have those like I don't care moments, but percentage wise I feel like they're like 10% of the time I feel that way. Like, whatever, I can be muscly and still feminine. What's wrong with that, But that isn't a very common view on the female gender. So yeah, I have some difficulties there, but ultimately someday I just want to have those perceptions like erased, that I will not feel silly being more muscly or having a more bold head and still feel as a woman.
Yeah, I think it helps sometimes to see women in the media who embody particular features that we do and still see them as beautiful. Like really tall actresses, you know.
Yeah, representation really matters in this regard, seeing, because honestly, the most of my time when I feel shit is when I compare myself to others, and then I go very mad if cis man looks so dainty and cute, and they identify as cis, and they look so
can we talk
feminine.
About Troye Sivan?
Honestly, like he looks
Troye
beautiful.
Sivan.
He looks beautiful to me.
He's like beautiful as a man and as a woman.
Exactly. He, I feel like gender doesn't apply to,
Yeah, I think that's the kind of androgyny that gives you like such freedom to
it
just
gives you
sort of
superpowers.
Wear different clothes. Yeah, it gives you superpowers. Like you wear slightly different clothes and then you can choose your gender for the day.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of, I think so many trans people of all varieties kind of wish we had that kind of androgyny.
And also to feel good in that androgyny, to not question, to not go outside and question yourself, and be like scared and be like, oh, how does that person perceive me now? Will they, be aggressive towards me because they think I'm a man in a dress or something, right? It's that real confidence that these people have. But anyway, even seeing representation in trans women, there's my all-time favorite, my love, Hunter Schaffer, which starred recently in the series Euphoria, and like she looks like a goddess to me. I want to, I want that body. I want to be like her. Or India Moore, who stars in Pose. I mean, they look beautiful. They have everything I don't. So yeah, seeing all these people and comparing myself to them makes me feel absurdly ugly. Because I feel like I will never achieve that kind of beauty, and it's a suffocating feeling.
Yeah. I feel like if I could feel like I had something else that valued me as a person, like I had some talent or skill that made me more valuable as a person, I think I'd feel less pressured when it comes to my physical appearance. But I don't feel like anything else makes me particularly valuable in this world, so the least I could do is be petite. um,
Well, now, this is just you see how bodies really influence our self-worth. So
yeah.
this is why whenever I feel ugly, I don't want to talk about it. I just want to let the day go by and hope that the next morning I will not feel that way. I will find at least something that keeps me up, right? Because the amount of self-loathing that is collected in me is just unbearable. Which, okay, if other people say I'm beautiful or I'm pretty or, how my hair is gorgeous, how my skin is soft and all these lovely things, which are nice, obviously, but at the end of the day, it's still you who has this body and who judges it and perceives it.
Yeah, I don't take compliments very, very easily, and I tend to, the voice in my head finds a reason as to why that compliment is bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, that person just thinks that because they're my friend.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't think it otherwise.
Sometimes it's almost like they're putting you down, right? Like, oh, you poor soul, but you are so beautiful. Why are you so
At
worried?
least you have nice hair.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, and that's a weird thing to be complimented on something like, oh, you have pretty hair, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess. But the rest of me is a hideous monster. I use the word monster for myself quite a lot, and I think I always have. I remember being a teenager and feeling like I had this strong sense that I was a monster. I identified very strongly with the Phantom of the Opera. This idea of being this hideous thing that desperately wants to be loved, but how can someone ever love you except you hope that they might love something about you on the inside, because how could anyone ever love you on the outside? I still identify with that, and I feel more than ever being trans that socially I am a monster, and people may for various reasons be an ally to my monstrosity and may want to some degree take pity on me or sort of performatively talk about what a great trans ally they are, but overall I feel that I'll always be just a freak. And
gosh, Fee, I'm so sorry. Yeah, this is for anyone who's listening. We are not perfect people, so we have our own demons, as you can tell. But yeah, I feel like this is such an illness of society. It always tells us how we should look like and how we should act and how we should, exist. Yeah, sometimes I do feel beautiful, right? But those are little moments, little, things, I'll feel cute and that's amazing. But staying in that state is the hardest thing, because you will always check for flaws, for, or someone will comment on something that you might be conscious about, and that will ruin your mood. For me, it's mostly my mother. If, for example, I feel beautiful with long hair, my mother would sometimes say, "Oh, you look, why are you trying so hard to look like a girl? It isn't a good look on you. Just keep it like mid kind of range, like a bob cut or something. And that really gets me down, right? Because I feel like even if I don't want her opinion to influence me that much, it still kind of does. Because I lived with her for the majority of my life.
It's also just not a very loving thing to do, and anyone who loves you wouldn't tell you that they dislike something about you that makes you happy. I mean, you would hope that that would be the case. Like, it shouldn't matter how, like, what other people think about your hair. If your hair makes you happy the way it is, that's how it should be.
Exactly. Or like, the clothes you wear, or if you want to go have a cosmetic procedure done, and kind of feel beautiful through that. If people comment on it, you will ultimately feel a bit shit.
I think when it comes to cosmetic procedures, it's a difficult, especially being trans. It's tricky, right? Because many trans people do want cosmetic procedures, and how many do you have to get to the point where you pass completely, and then do you just stop there? Because I've seen trans people who don't just stop there. There was one trans YouTuber who, she had a somewhat unique face, but like incredibly beautiful, really, really gorgeous. I'm not going to say who it was, but she was incredibly gorgeous. And then she had work done on her face, and she just became plain. Like, she just looked like every other girl. And she was still beautiful, I guess, but that like uniqueness that made her herself and just like look different but still so beautiful from the other women, that was gone. And I think as trans people, it's gonna be hard for all of us to get to the point where we go, this is it, I'm now perfect, I don't need to have any other surgeries done, any other this, that, or the other done. I'm trying to get rid of as much of my body hair as possible, but at the same time, I don't want to do that, because like at heart I'm still like a feminist, and I just like and part of, there's like a symbolic element of body hair to me, and as much as I don't like the body hair, and I've always been somewhat uncomfortable with it, it has this symbolic meaning where I kind of want to keep it. I never shave my armpits. I'm keeping my armpit hair. That has like a feminist symbolic meaning to me. That's very personal, and I want it, but at the same time, if I got rid of it, I would be prettier.
Yeah.
So that's and like when it comes to my leg hair, like cis women tend to have less leg hair on their thighs, but like I have more leg hair on my thighs. So like, do I want to just get rid of the leg hair on my thighs and have like lower leg hair? Is that a little bit ridiculous? And should I just go ahead and get rid of all of it if I'm just going to shave it every summer anyway? I don't know. I don't know how far to go. And like, and at what point does it stop being about my gender and just start being about how scared I am to be ugly?
Yeah. That it's the same for me. I mean, I had laser hair removal, electro needling hair removal. I did a CO2 laser to get softer skin, get rid of my acne scars, and currently I would love to do anti-androgens to lower my body hair and to stop kind of the masculinization featuring of my body. At this point, I kind of would like to read the study. So it's titled "Body Image Concern and Gender Identities Between Transgender and Cisgender Persons" from Iran, and it's this article featured in Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy. The concept of body image is something beyond just the perception of body. It contains attitudes, experiences, and perceptions associated with one's physical appearance based on self-observation and others' reactions. Eating disorders caused by body dissatisfaction usually manifest as a desire for weight loss in trans women and a desire to gain weight in trans men. This could be seen as a way to suppress the physical characteristics of one's birth-assigned gender and better present those of the preferred gender identity. Studies which have examined body satisfaction in different treatment stages of gender dysphoria have shown that gender confirmation treatments, including hormone therapy and sex reassignment surgery, have been effective in increasing body image satisfaction. Many studies have compared body satisfaction between trans women and trans men groups and report a difference in dissatisfaction intensity and type between the two groups. As for dissatisfaction type, homosexual and bisexual trans women were more likely to have body dissatisfaction and eating disorders, while homosexual and bisexual trans men had less body dissatisfaction. In trans women, body concern was mostly related to their voice and hair, while in trans men it was related to their muscularity and posture. Trans women checked their bodies more often, and unlike trans men, hormone therapy was effective on their body image satisfaction. Our findings show that body image concern was significantly higher in transgender participants compared to cisgender participants. And these scores were especially higher in trans women compared to other groups. It seems that body image concern persists in transgender persons even after hormone therapy and gender-confirming surgeries, and also the amount of time elapsed from sex reassignment surgery had no impact on their BECI score, which stands for the Body Image Concern Inventory. It's this kind of method about measuring how they see their gender. Anyway, the stress that transgender persons experience derives from social stigma. Body satisfaction increases with increased social acceptance in transgender persons. According to these, it is possible that the higher scores of transgender persons in body dissatisfactions is due to the distress and fear of non-acceptance and stigmatization from society. Moreover, the different scores between trans women and trans men could be attributed to the fact that in most cultures, femininity has a lower status compared to masculinity. On the other hand, body image concern scores were significantly higher in participants with feminine gender identity compared to other gender identities. Despite all social advancements that women have had, being judged by their appearance is still one of their many concerns. Trans men, more than trans women, tend to have non-traditional or non-binary identities. And the identity which the person specifies for him herself influences his or her body image and bodily preferences to a large extent. This could indicate that trans women have a strong inclination to describe their feminine characteristics and might even exaggerate in doing so. It seems that it may be harder for trans women to believe they are perceived as female by others.
So it's harder for trans women, body acceptance.
Yeah, it definitely
and
is.
it's very socially based.
Yeah.
Whether or not society will accept us. I feel that very strongly. And
Yeah.
I've often wondered if society were to accept us more easily and quickly and without any kind of bullshit, then would we just be more comfortable with our bodies? Would we want to have as many like surgeries and procedures and hormones? Like, if I had been able to change my gender socially without any judgment, would I have felt the same pressure to transition physically?
Yeah, I feel the same way. So a lot of the people that I hang with, my friends, know about me, right? I'm out to them as trans. But, to the general public, I'm obviously not. And I also appear more like a man than I do as a woman. People sometimes get confused about my gender, and that kind of makes me really joyous. Anyway, but if it would be, socially acceptable for trans people to, basically exist, we wouldn't worry about, medically transitioning or how we view our bodies.
Yeah, I can imagine for some people, because this isn't my experience, but I think for some people this experience seems to be very real, that like they feel like they need those surgeries, they need their body not to align just with a gender, but with like their self-perception of their body in some way, and so they'll need bottom surgery and they'll need top surgery, and it isn't related necessarily to pressures of like gendered body image necessarily. I can't relate to that experience in the same way, because I feel very much that a lot of the changes, I feel for me gender is bullshit. It doesn't feel like a tangible thing, except in that society treats me a certain way based on how they perceive my gender. So to be a woman and to be respected fully as a woman, because I don't think as a trans woman I'm respected in the same way. So to be respected fully as a woman, I need to look good. I need to be pretty. Mm-hmm. I need to be skinny. And I hate this shit.
Yeah.
I hate this, and I hate that I hate that I feel so much pressure to be skinny, and I'm so self-conscious about putting on any weight whatsoever. And like as a feminist, I'm like more power to you for having whatever body you have. You should feel sexy and beautiful, and there are always people who will appreciate your body no matter what size it is. Because honestly, even though men are supposed to prefer skinny women, they fucking don't. Like some do, and that's fine, but like men don't really want what they're supposed to want, like socially, I think. But like the feminist in me wants to say fuck it, but like I'm so scared about not being skinny enough and taking up too much physical space.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I feel like it's the beauty standards that makes us fatphobic.
And I would never call another woman a monster, or even see another woman as like a monster. That's just for me. I am the monster. I am the fucking creature from the Black Lagoon. And I do not hold anyone else to the standards that I hold myself to.
Oh yeah, we are the worst judges of our own beauty standards, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I'm like, all other women are queens. Every woman on this earth is a beautiful fucking queen. And then I'm like, well, except for me, but it's fine, don't worry. I'm a hideous fucking monster, but no one worry about that. It's fine. We're just gonna ignore that.
For the record, okay, listeners, I feel like we are quite beautiful, so listeners will not be like, oh, what are these two hideous trans women talking about, right? Hacks.
Yeah, I guess so. So much of it is like how we talk about ourselves, right? Like it does hurt me to say these bad things about myself, and it hurts even when I just say it inside my head, but it's the self-loathing that makes me think that I deserve that kind of abuse.
Exactly.
So what should we do to fix it? How do we feel better, Kitty?
Well,
my partner always says, you've got two options. You either change it or you accept it. And I often feel like I get stuck in the middle where I like refuse to accept it, but I'm not going to work out. I don't exercise. So like, I'm not going to change it, but like, I'm also not doing anything about it to accept it, and that's a problem. But I think these probably are your realistic options. I think speaking more positively about yourself, even in a joking way, like just even if you just say, "Oh yes, well I'm amazing, so thank you for the compliment. I am incredibly beautiful and I deserved it." Even saying that as a joke doesn't, it won't feel bad in the way that criticizing yourself will, where you're like, "Oh, no, I look ugly today," and that inner monologue of self-hatred. And I used to, when I moved from Texas to England, we didn't have any mirrors for a few weeks.
That's
I felt
amazing.
so good about myself.
Yeah.
I felt so fucking good about myself.
The less I can see myself, the better.
I think probably in this time of coronavirus quarantine, we're all on Skype and Zoom and Facebook Messenger video chat a lot more, and we all have these little images of ourselves for like an hour that we're just staring at in the I see everyone doing it. Everyone has a little peek every minute or so at themselves, right?
I constantly do that.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's probably helpful to minimize that, so you're spending less time, because the lighting is always terrible and it's like up your nose, and that's probably as bad as mirrors in some way, except the pixelation makes your skin look great,
yeah,
like anytime I'm worried about like, my
definitely.
complexion, I'm like, it'll be good on Skype.
Oh yeah. I found this post that says the whole self-love thing is good and all, but some people can't fathom being loved. They can't imagine there being anything good about them. So they can't simply just stop doing unhealthy things. There's a process. And this other person replies and says, before self-love, you have to invoke self-tolerance and self-neutrality. If you can't say, I love my body, say my body gets me from place to place. If you can't say I'm beautiful, begin by shutting down the I'm ugly thoughts and saying I'm a person. If you can't say I'm valuable, begin by shutting down the I'm worthless thoughts and say all people deserve basic respect and I'm a person. If you can't say I'm important or I'm kind, say I'm the one who waters my plants every week, or I'm the one who tips the kind barista down the street, or I'm the one who makes sure my dog does not eat plastic, and so on.
Yeah, that's really nice. Although I do get quite anxious that when I do say nice things about myself or express liking myself in any way, that I'll be judged as narcissistic for it. And I don't know to what degree that is irrational. I'm just a person with anxiety for sure. But sometimes I think people don't want you to like yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which makes it hard to. So I mean, but I would say yes to those quotes, but all the way, like everyone do that. But then again, this voice inside of me makes me anxious about doing it, and
yeah,
I guess that's where you have to stop and say, okay, if I hold this standard for everyone else, then that's the standard I need to hold for myself as well. And that's maybe the trickiest thing, is when you would call yourself a monster, but no one else on the planet. So maybe you're holding yourself to an unreasonable standard, and it's time to recognize that you're being a bit unreasonable.
Yeah, exactly.
So for anyone out there who's listening, please remember to be kind to yourself. Treat yourself the way that you would treat others. Be kind to yourself the way that you would be kind to others. Okay, well, that is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me again, Kitty.
Of course, anytime.
If you'd like to get in touch, you can find us at kvartir.org. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.